Hey guys, this is Sam Helix, and today I'm going to teach you all about compression. So over the last few weeks, I've had so many questions about whether I would do a video about compression. And I was kind of eager to do this because it's a really important and interesting technique you can use to clear up your tracks. So a lot of people don't really know what compression does, and to those people I have to say, don't use it if you don't really know what it does. This is mainly because an overcompressed track can sound really bad, and you don't really want your track to sound bad, right? So first I'm going to show you guys what compression actually does and how it can be used. And then we'll go into FL Studio and I show you an example with the vocal where I used compression. So compression. So what compression essentially does is it makes sure the gap between the loudest part and the least loudest part of your sample or vocal or sound, whatever, gets closer together. It does this by allowing you to set a certain threshold. If the sound shoots above this threshold, the compression starts working and it actually starts toning down the sound. It does nothing to whatever sound is below the threshold, but it kind of makes you feel like the lowest parts or the least loud parts are getting louder because the loudest parts are getting quieter. So let's jump right into FL Studio and I'll show you guys an example and on how to use compression. Okay, so here we are in FL Studio. We got a vocal right here. We got a fruity limiter, which is like also a compressor. So this is going to be our compressor because it's like one of the most basic ones and it's actually really visual. I really like it for that. And it's really easy to show you guys what every knob does and how it works. So we got this vocal. I'm just going to show you guys this vocal. I'm just going to play it just a little bit so you guys can see what it sounds like without compression.
I don't know what to say, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. Colors all around, but I don't see anything but blue. Get lost in the sound.
Okay, well, that's enough for now. So let's actually turn on the compressor. So like I already told you guys, a compressor is something that makes sure that the loudest parts get quieter, and that happens under a certain threshold. So right here we have the threshold button, which is located right over here. Every compressor has a threshold button. So if you actually play the vocal right now, you can see how loud the vocal is pretty much, which is kind of cool. So what we can do is we can actually set like a threshold like right here, and everything above this blue line right now gets compressed. Everything below the blue line does not get compressed and nothing really happens to it. But everything above the blue line, and we can set this line as far as you want, gets compressed. But how does it get compressed? You do that with the ratio button. So the more you open this button up, the more it compresses. So if you do it all the way to the right, it compresses a lot. It pretty much makes it so that as soon as something gets above the line, it goes straight under the line. So if you listen to it right now, actually put the line a little bit lower so it's really easy to hear.
I don't know what to say, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. Colors all around, but I don't see anything but blue.
And at first, especially when I started using compression, it wasn't really clear to me what had changed. But the trick is to listen to the sounds that are really quiet usually. So things like breathing, stuff like that. Where she breathes in right here, the vocalist, like they're really loud now compared to the rest of the vocal. So that's how you see like how hard you're compressing. Like if you can really hear those vocals, you're compressing, or those like breathing, it could be that you're compressing a little bit too hard.
Colors all around, but I don't see anything but blue. Get lost in the sound.
See, almost the breathing sounds like just as loud as the thing. Here you see the breathing over here, and here you see the rest of the vocal. That is actually really interesting. So that is basically what compression does. So I would never use it like in this like hard of a like manner. I would just be a lot more subtle. I would just do something like this maybe.
Colors all around, but I don't see anything but blue.
Which like this sounds a little bit better. This is mainly so that you can make sure that there are no really like, especially in vocals, this is interesting because the sounds in the vocals can be really loud. There can be like, if you have a vocalist, it can be there can be a really big difference between the quieter parts of the vocal and the louder parts of the vocal. So if you do not want that to be too big of a difference, you use compression for that. Okay, so the other buttons on the compressor, we have the attack button, which is right here, and this basically indicates as soon as the vocal goes over the threshold, how long does it take before it actually starts compressing. So you can actually choose this to be like, now it's on like 10 milliseconds. It takes 10 milliseconds before the compressor starts working after it hit the threshold. Now we have the release, and which is basically the other way around of the attack. The release makes it so that as soon as the vocal or the sample or the sound gets under the threshold, how long it takes before it stops compressing. Those 4 buttons, like threshold, ratio, attack, and release, are the main buttons. And then the other button you really need, and the other button that's also on every single compressor, is the gain. It has a different name on every single compressor. That's why I pulled up the FabFilter Pro C, which is a different compressor. But just like the other compressor, it has a threshold, a ratio, attack, and a release, just like we saw on the fruiting compressor. And every compressor also has an output level or a gain. So you can actually see we're going to overcompress a lot so that you can really, really see or really hear the difference. And we're going to turn off the auto gain. Usually compressors have an auto gain, which means that the more they start compressing, the more they start increasing the volume, because with compression you basically take away volume because you set a certain threshold. So right now it's going to be really quiet compared to, so the louder is without the compression, and with the compression is the one that's more quiet. This is a really extreme example, of course, but it's just so that you get the idea. So what I usually do is I turn on and turn off the compressor and just slowly increase the input so that they're just as loud.
Colors all around, but I don't see anything but blue. Get lost in the sound, go back to the start.
So now you can hear that they're pretty much equal, which is pretty good because you can really hear what the compression does and not what the gain button does. So I would always turn off the auto gain and then just A/B, like turn it on and off, and make sure it sounds good. So that is basically everything there is to compression. It's not really that interesting. Like I said, I usually use it on sounds that have a really big gap in dynamics. So some parts are really loud and some parts are really quiet. Stuff like vocals, sometimes even leads. Drums can have that, especially if you have a fixed drum pattern or like a sample or drum loop. So I hope you guys learned more about compression, what it does, and how to use it. Also, last Saturday was the very first in-depth masterclass. It's like a monthly masterclass for all the Platinum members. If you guys are interested in becoming Platinum member or member in general, there's a link down below to my Patreon where you can read all about it. If you guys like this video, hit the like button. Please click subscribe if you guys want to see more. Also, hit the bell icon to stay notified and get an update whenever I make a new video. Also, check out my socials right over here, and I'll see you guys in the next one.